This top 10 list contains elements that are not suitable for people under the age of 14. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, I do not own any of the songs in this video. All rights go to their respective copyright holders. Previously on Ultranatic. This is a list of what I consider the top 10 worst hit songs of 1974.
The night Chicago died.
I love you. I honestly love you.
Beach baby, they're on the same line to the end of September. You're 16, you're beautiful, and you're mine. Oh, mine.
Got it? Good. Back to the action.
Number 5. I know I pointed out a few unfortunate implications regarding the literal meaning behind Ringo's song in part 1, but as uneasy as that made me, I will not let it affect my opinion of Ringo Starr as a person. It was just a one-off thing on his part, and I found no indication of similar instances in any other song of his I looked into. But yeesh, can you imagine that? If there were multiple instances of Ringo singing about being in love with minors? Oh, the thought of that is what the No-No song was meant for. Thankfully, I found no other song supporting evidence of this big, famous pop star having a relationship with somebody they should not be having a relationship with. On an unrelated note,
I'm leaving it all up to you. You decide.
oh, come on! I thought I was done talking about terrible covers being performed by people who should know better. Ringo should have known better than to sing a song about loving a teenager when he's practically old enough to be her father. And Donnie and Marie Osmond should know better than to perform a love song together when they're siblings. Actually, maybe that's not fair. After all, this was Donnie and Marie's first hit as a duet. So maybe this wasn't even their decision and their manager just made a bad call on what song they should perform together. As a first attempt, I can excuse this as just poor judgment and give them a freebie for that mistake. But only the first time.
'Cause you are on the morning side of the mountain, and you are on the twilight side of the moon.
Yeah, some of you may be familiar with their follow-up Morning Side of the Mountain, another throwback cover of a love song. I'm seeing a pattern here where this lyric comes out of their mouth.
And you and I are just like they. For all we know, our love is just a kiss away.
To quote myself from earlier in the month, did no one else see anything wrong with that line?
That's why I'm leaving it all up to you.
So yeah, an implied incestuous duo making hits in the mid-70s, that's just bad taste in general. But if you can somehow look past that, how? There's also the issue that this song just isn't good on its own. And in all fairness, I don't think it was very good in the first place.
I'm leaving it all up to you.
You see, the version they're covering was by Dell and Grace back in 1963 in the style of apparently doo-wop. I say apparently because while this does technically qualify as doo-wop, it's so slow, meandering, and lifeless that I barely recognize it as such. In which case, I'd say the Osmonds match that style perfectly.
Now do you want my love, or are we through?
Although I suppose it fits here since these lyrics aren't actually that romantic. In fact, they're more indecisive than anything else.
That's why I'm leaving it up to you.
You decide what you're gonna do.
Now do you want my love?
Or are we
So, This song is to the 60s and 70s what this is to last decade.
What do you mean? When you nod your head yes, but you wanna say no.
Actually, I doubt you'll ever hear me say this again. That's an insult to Justin Bieber.
First you wanna go to the left, then you wanna turn right. Wanna argue all day, make love all night.
I don't pretend to like that Tool, but What Do You Mean is actually a very good song about indecisiveness in a relationship. Because it's one guy confused to no end by the signals his partner is giving off. But in both of these versions, it's both people having no idea what's going on. Making me even more confused as to what the heck is going on. Let's just be honest, both of these versions as duets were doomed from the start. This song doesn't work if two people sing on it. Hold on, wait a second. It says here that Dylan Grace's version was a cover too. So, who's the original artist then?
I'm leaving it all up to you. You decide what you're gonna do.
Ah, there we go. There's a version that works perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but better than the others.
Now do you want my love?
Dawn and Dewey are two guys singing, which definitely makes that version better. Mostly because it's highly unlikely they're singing to each other, given this was a time period where that was reason to blackmail someone.
I work for the State Department, and I'm a homosexual.
Oh, how disgusting.
I feel no personal shame or guilt about this, but I must keep it a secret or I will lose my job on security grounds.
So hypothetically, this is just a song being sung from one person to another and not from both people to each other.
It couldn't last.
And for the record, when I think of doo-wop, this is what comes to mind. Actual passion and soulful energy that neither Dylan Grace nor the Osmonds can properly replicate. And I know I've been slamming both versions since these songs are so oppressively boring and bland, but that's because I'd rather talk about these songs collectively than discuss anything more about the Osmonds on their own. Because,
Don't understand. What have I done wrong? I worship the ground you walk on.
I know I sound like a prude for calling out stuff that happened 5 decades ago, and I should probably just let it go as a different generation, not see an issue with something because it was a different time. But if we all agree that it's wrong to ship the Loud siblings together, we should all agree that this is messed up too.
That's why I belong up to you.
So, to sum up, this song is too vanilla for Ice Ice Baby, a more misguided cover than Madonna's American Pie, and has an incestuous subtext that would make Ryan and Sharpay Evans cringe at its naivete. I hate everything about how saccharinely innocent this song tries to sound when everything around it is 53 flavors of wrong. I say 53 because that's the total number of US states, districts, and territories that outlaw it. So, since you're leaving it all up to us, the no's seem to have it.
I always wanted to do that.
Number 4. Good gravy, I feel dirty after listening to that. There's only one thing that could make this unclean feeling go away. Yeah, this'll ease my concerns. I just hope it up to, say, Matthew 6. Has Satan corrupted the Bible now, too? I just wanted to read the Lord's Prayer, right? Ah, fudge!
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Yeah, if your jaw somehow hasn't dropped after seeing this exist, you must be in a place where gravity has no meaning. Please take me with you.
Thy kingdom come, thy
But as much as I'd rather let the fires of hell consume me than discuss this, I do have a job to do, so let's get this over with. The Lord's Prayer was written in the New Testament of the Bible by Gospels Matthew and Luke, with slightly different interpretations from both. But you didn't come here for Sunday school, you came here to hear me bash a terrible hit song. And look, I know 1974 was a rough year and we all need to take comfort in something, and for me that obviously would have been Christianity, but ignoring religion, who the heck bought this?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
I mean, I despise what Ringo and the Osmond songs were about, but at least I get why those songs were hits. Both were well-established music acts, so even if those songs are controversial, their star power at least makes me understand why they were popular. But who the heck is Sister Janet Mead? Well, true to her title, she's an Australian nun who had her only hit with the Lord's Prayer set to rock music. Awful rock music!
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
I mean, say what you will about Christian rock and how lame you might think that is, but a lot of those songs have very good production. This song, however, just opens up with one of the sludgiest sounding guitar riffs I've ever heard. And if you're thinking, well, yeah, that sounds awful, but it's better rock than Nickelback. Nickelback wouldn't have used a flippin' xylophone in their music.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
What does this song think it is, the Breadwinners theme?
Buckle up, duckies, cause we got a rocket band. Delivering bread, flying crazy, cause we can.
And lyrically, what can I say? It's just the Lord's Prayer, no alterations, aside from, I guess, making an official chorus out of the first 4 verses.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Which I will give credit, the melody to those is quite infectious and has not yet left my head since hearing it, but as for the other verses...
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive them who trespass against us. Forgive us our trespasses.
Look, this clip has become cliche as the go-to example for what this sounds like, but tell them what they're doing here, Pete.
Just making it up as I went along, really.
And upon further research, I discovered this isn't the only directly quoted Bible passage turned into a song by Sister JM. How would you like to hear the 10 Commandments set to swing music?
I am the Lord thy God, put no one else before me. Go tell the people, don't take my name in vain.
Actually, not gonna lie, this is pretty catchy. Go tell the people, the good Lord says. And that should show that I don't have anything against the Bible being turned into popular music. I'd argue it's kinda lazy since we already have hymns for that sung every Sunday, but it's fine if the music is actually good. But you have no idea how hard this song is for me to get through. It sounds so ugly when it's supposed to teach us about purity. I don't know if Sister Jan is to blame for this or some up himself studio executive, but I doubt even the devil would do something this heinous to the Catholic Church. Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I need the strength of God himself to get through this musical crucifixion.
Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Number 3. Ugh. So, Sean Fay Wolf of Diamondback Studios recently completed both parts of his top 10 worst hit songs of 2013.
I don't just hate listening to the bad music of this year, I hate thinking about it.
And as an avid supporter, I highly recommend you check that out along with his other content if you haven't already. But I bring that list up because Sean likely didn't have a lot of fun going over those songs given the degree of bad all of them were. But everyone knew that that list had to contain at least a few certain songs for the goodness and decency of humanity, what little we have left. And by the same token, for those curious if certain infamously awful 70s songs were going to make this list,
Boogie that, boogie that. Boogie that, boogie that.
what did you frickin' think?
Oh, yes, they call him the street.
So, for those unaware, I'm still an avid watcher of the Nostalgia Critic. Yes, even despite previous incidences, which I do not excuse, but I also don't let coincide with his persona as an entertainer. I still find him overall funny, and once in a while his reviews can hit me as hard as things like his reviews of Cat in the Hat and Patch Adams did, but even I have to admit, my patience with him as a comedian has been tested for quite some time. Not even with his reviews necessarily, but rather with the commercials he now does in between. They started off good, and to be fair, it's gotta be hard to make unique comedic versions of genuine commercials for the same things repeatedly, but a lot of his commercials have just downgraded from actual funny jokes and scenarios to awkward scenarios and ear-bleedingly annoying voices.
The HelloFresh logo, a masterpiece to say the least.
As we slowly adjust to a new normal, we still need to be smart about how we do business.
Hello, I'm the Stems Fairy. Yes, that's what we're going with this week.
Now, what does any of that have to do with this entry? Exact same problem. Like, I'm wearing false teeth now because this song made me grind my old ones away out of pure cringe.
Pardon me, sir, did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. I was just sitting here trying to get some air in my car.
So, as much as I want to just suffocate this song similar to the Earth Queen from Legend of Korra, I guess I should give some context. This is Ray Stevens, country singer slash comedian whose biggest hits all seem to go back and forth from sincere songs I'd actually call decent.
Walk my way, and 1,000 violins began to play.
To comedy songs that wouldn't fit in the Shel Silverstein collection.
Guitar Zane, he's a guitar man.
And he'd say,
And his biggest comedy song, The Streak, falls into the latter category naturally. Emphasis on naturally, because do I even need to spell out what this song's about?
well, yes, they call him the Streak.
Yeah, it's a comedic take on streaking, the art of running around in public with just little enough clothing to shock anyone who sees you. Which was apparently a huge craze in the 70s that I'm sure people are embarrassed about in hindsight.
He's always making the news, wearing just his tennis shoes. Guess you could call him unique.
However, I'm not here to review a stupidly dated fad, I'm only here to review the song based around it. And this song made me realize that everything's awful, the planet's beyond saving, and I'm not even sure if it's worth saving anymore.
Hello once again, everyone. Your Action News reporter in the booth at the gym, covering the disturbance at the basketball playoff.
Okay, I'm exaggerating and kind of projecting based on current times, but oh boy do I hate this song. Not for any reasons of shock, please, streaking has happened more than once on Big Brother even, and it cracked me up there. No, I hate it because of how aggressively unfunny this song is, and you wanna know how I know this song isn't funny?
Don't look, Ethel. It's too late. She'd already been in the scene.
I mean, apart from just the obvious that the joke is just base level.
Good grief, he's naked!
Which could be funny if it was from Ethel's point of view and not her husband's, who I don't think is even fazed by it.
Right down the middle of the court there, didn't have nothing on but his high-top Reeboks.
And it's not just the terrible attempts at irony in the song.
Spliced right there in front of the shock absorber.
Haha, I get it, it's like freezing to death next to a hot tub, haha. And not just how Ray as the spectator is only given the same impression of Jeff Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy fused together each time.
Pardon me, sir, did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did. It's half time. I was just going down there to get Ethel a snow cone.
No, it's because despite all these comedic elements being included in it, the song felt it all so important to put in a frickin' laugh track.
Yeah, I did. I was just in here getting my tires checked, and he just appeared out of the traffic. Just come streaking around the grease right there. Didn't have nothing on but a smile.
Ugh. Speaking of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, does anyone else remember when their comedy albums actually came included with songs? Which weren't actually songs given their crummy country orchestration and stock chorus over it, that, if taken away, were literally just their comedy routines with the audience's laughter still included.
My friend comes over and goes, "Hey, you moving?" Nope. We just pack our stuff up once or twice a week. You'll see how many boxer take.
Can someone please verify for me that this isn't just that? A lazy cash-in on something already popular with nothing original or funny about it? Because what else could I say about this song that wouldn't just be a cheap shot?
Just as proud as he can be of his anatomy, he gon' give us a peek.
Yeah, this streaker must have genitals the size of Dippin' Dots if all people can see of them is a peak.
I looked in there and Ethel was getting her cold drink. I hollered, "Don't look, Ethel!" And it's too late. She'd already been mooned.
Oh, there's also the implication that said streaker is also a stalker if he keeps following this couple around.
If there's an audience to be found, we'll be streaking it round, inviting public critique.
Glad you're inviting it because you're gaying it. This song is naked of not just clothing, but absolute dignity.
Who's that with you? Ethel? Is that you, Ethel? Where do you think you're going?
Thank God this phase streaked right past us and ran its course. Now get some dang clothes on and never do anything like this again.
Well, yes, they call him the street. Ethel, you show off.
Well, once again, Mr. Stevens, you have managed to, pardon the expression, barely stay within the bounds of what is permissible.
Number 2. In part 1, I told y'all there'd be a few surprises here and there, and me naming Waterloo as one of the worst hit songs of 1974 undoubtedly seemed like the hottest take I'd give. It's not. Nope. I've got a hotter one for you. You all thought it'd be at number 1, didn't you?
Having my baby. What a lovely way of saying how much you love me. Having my baby.
Now, if you think me keeping this song from the number 1 spot means I have some sort of defense for it, you are dead wrong. In fact, spoilers, I plan to make another Billboard Hot 100 hot takes for this retrospective, and while I only have my OG 6 tiers in the first one I did, this song has inspired me to officially institute my very own exceptional tier. I mean, doesn't that feel obligatory at this point, given this song is considered one of the worst hit songs of not just 1974, but the entire 1970s decade, given it's the only song from that decade on Wikipedia's page of the worst songs of all time. To clarify, that means that logically, this song is considered worse than this,
Muskrat, candlelight.
this,
More than just a dream come true.
and this. And for those who think that, they might very well be right. Before I address the elephant in the room, let's first discuss how dismal this song sounds sonically. Y'all remember how I said the Osmonds hit this year was too vanilla for my taste? Well, if those two are vanilla flavored, then Paul Anka is Julia flavored. If you're wondering what the heck Julia flavored is, I'll let the 26th winner of Survivor explain it.
I'm tempted to say that she has like a vanilla personality, but I feel like that would be doing a great disservice to the flavor vanilla. I mean, people actively seek out vanilla flavored products. Children clamor to get a vanilla ice cream cone. Nobody's clamoring for anything Julia flavored.
No kidding. This song sounds like the music hotel lounge music listens to when it's suffering from insomnia. And the rhythm of the actual verses makes Deuces sound catchy by comparison. If you were singing a song you'd never heard of before on karaoke, you'd match its rhythm better than Paul Anka does here. Oh, and since I've not addressed that yet, who is Paul Anka? Well, he started out in the 50s as apparently a teen heartthrob, which I'd equivocate to calling Robin Thicke the next big thing that couldn't be less fitting. And for him to make a song this maudlin, meandering, and dull is terrible on its own, but unfortunately to be expected.
I'm a woman in love and I love what it's doing to me.
What I shouldn't expect is for Odia Coates, his partner in the song, to have any personality and individuality removed as well.
Oh, baby, no, I'm sorry.
She doesn't have much of a career outside of working with this human piece of wet cement, but what I have found from her solo career showed a bit of promise.
I've got to know what's going on. 1 minute you're with me, next minute you're gone.
See, see, there's some flair there, a commanding presence on stage, while still keeping things fun. Stripped away here by Paul Anka singing a song about how wonderful it is that the woman he loves is pregnant with his child. Now, to be clear, I think pregnancy is a beautiful thing in my eyes. It shows that the couple in question are ready for the responsibility of not just raising another human being, hopefully in a proud and sensible way made possible through good parenting, but given how big a responsibility that is, which likely leads to a lot of maturing, it also shows a commitment they have to becoming better people. For the sake of each other and the sake of their child, they want to do everything they can to give the best life for them possible. So this commitment shows just how devoted they are to seeing this infant grow, and by extension, seeing each other grow too. But we had sex, and because of it, you're having my child now. That is genuinely what it sounds like Paul Anka is taking away from this. I originally wrote this segment to show huge fits of anger and disgust for how self-centered and chauvinistic that sentiment was. I even broke down the obvious problems with these lyrics, like using the verbiage "my baby" instead of "our baby."
Having my baby.
A choice that Paul tried and utterly failed to defend in interviews. But then I realized I was taking my distaste for the song, and by extension Paul Anka, way too far. Oh, not that Paul Anka's attitude isn't utterly contemptible here, it is, but I eventually decided to be the bigger man here.
I can see it.
Rather than show absolute rage and bewilderment at this song, which I'm not sure I could properly convey anyways, I'm so burnt out, I'm going to tactfully say why these verses are so skin-crawlingly repulsive to me.
Deep inside you, I see it showing. Oh, the seed inside you, baby, do you feel it growing?
You see, I was definitely taking that lyric as literally as possible, and I thought it sounded revolting, and while I stand by it being nauseating he brought that detail up, that doesn't necessarily make this song anything explicit. But did he actually have to write that in there?
Oh, the seed inside you, baby, do you feel it growing?
It's like Pat Monahan singing about his untrimmed chest.
My heart is bound to be right out my untrimmed chest.
It's the wrong details. It has nothing to do with the story.
Look, the idea of loving your unborn child is sweet, but phrasing it like that makes me question if it's the child we're talking about here.
Oh, the seed inside you, baby, do you feel it growing?
But if you thought that was as awkward as things could get, well, how about we bring abortion to the equation?
Didn't have to keep it, wouldn't put you through it. You could have swept it from your life, but you wouldn't do it. No, you just wouldn't do it.
I am not in a position where I can discuss this delicate, multifaceted issue, but considering the way he connotated her pregnancy to be a display of affection for him specifically, please tell me he's not saying she chose to keep the baby for the same reason? Because if that's what he meant...
I believe you're going to hell for that one.
I mean, I don't fully know what the intention behind that lyric was, but that is how it came across to me. Although he does say he included it primarily for political reasons, which makes that lyric feel transparently disingenuous. And as you can clearly see, this song has made me uncomfortable to the point of not even wanting to talk about it. Heck, there's been debate if I even should talk about it, as I've asked people close to me, and they argue it shouldn't even be on this list. Well, not because they like it, they hate it too, but they make the argument that this song doesn't even deserve to be remembered. And you know what? I agree with them. This song doesn't deserve to be remembered. But unfortunately, it is to this day. Not just by me, but by all the people who made it a #1 hit for 3 weeks straight. Yes, seriously, 1974 was apparently such a terrible place for music, and likely the media in general, that this song ended up being in a 4-way tie for the longest running #1 hit of that year. So as much as this song deserves to be forgotten, it'll take generations for that to happen now. And it also means I can't physically ignore it as much as I want to. But you know what I can do out of pure spite? Not give it the #1 spot on this list. Well, not that the song above it doesn't deserve it in my eyes, but considering this song debatably has a worse reputation as a singular piece of music than the entirety of 1974 as a year for music on whole does, so much so that I've come across dozens of other people even calling it the worst hit song of 1974 already, I know putting it at the top would only help its popularity grow further, which I'm sure Paul would be fine with. And what Paul wants here, Paul will not get. So Paul Anka, as not only the singer, but the songwriter of this egregious piece of music.
From the bottom of my heart, go yourself.
And there you have it. One of the worst songs of all time, from one of the worst years in music of all time. A song so infamously terrible that I'm officially instituting an exceptional tier. And the worst part about it is that I found one song worse than it. Even with me toning down my anger in the last pick, I don't think I'm in the right mindset to talk about this yet. I need to diffuse myself a bit first. So, hopefully this will do the trick. Let's look over the dishonorable mentions. I already didn't like this song for how shouty it is, like a band's desperate attempt to keep playing despite a hurricane raining on them. But then I found out this was a cover of a Leo Sayers song where they made a slight change to the lyrics. Now's not the time to go over the intricacies of Sayers' version, but that one word alteration strikes me as missing the point. Well, throw this on the pile of songs that didn't warrant usage of the word boogie. With the exception of the Pina Colada song, this might just be the worst song on Awesome Mix Volume 1. I know a lot of people like it, but I'm with Todd. This version's obnoxious and BJ Thomas's version is far superior.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
But admittedly wouldn't fit the space prison scene as well.
I'm hooked on a feeling, I'm believing. Wild thing, you make my heart sing.
Wild Thing is a classic, but I think there's room for improvement, and I know just what improvement that song needs. Annoying disco sound effects. Honestly, I'd argue there's better production here than the original in some places, but for that alone, it's an awful cover. Speaking of crummy covers, let's take a soul rendition of a beloved lullaby and turn it into an unrehearsed, poorly performed white bread karaoke version of itself and make it a top 5 hit. I think I'd rather listen to actual Mockingbird.
Rock me gently, rock me slowly, take it easy, don't you know?
You have no idea how close I was to putting this song on this list. With how amateur the singing is, how minimalist the writing is, and how chintzy the production is.
Oh my darling, oh my baby, you got the moves there, driving me crazy.
It's not even that outstandingly bad, which kind of makes it worse because it's both annoying and forgettable at the same time. But as someone who doesn't fully understand how 1970s music trends worked, I didn't feel confident including it on this list. Maybe this kind of orchestration was something people really enjoyed despite its nondescript lyrics. And if I had to judge generic lyrics about loving someone versus comparing your love to a specifically dismal historic surrender, I know which one is harder to defend.
Midnight at the oasis, send your camel to bed.
The production's lovely, the singing is dolphin decibel off key for me though.
Come on till the evening ends, till the evening ends. What are you gonna say?
It was definitely a little bit on the pitchy side.
This song actually was on the list for the longest time because it sounded like another boring off-kilter Chicago song to me. But my dad talked to me about how this song appealed to him for its message about finding who you are as a person, and I can't deny him nor anyone else of that. If this song helps find who you are, I appreciate that. I'm just not convinced Peter Cetera did here since he never says what that specifically is.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun.
And we now have our unofficial number 11, which I think sounds irritating to no end and has such a confusing tone for a song about fond memories on your deathbed.
Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die when all the birds are singing in the sky.
But life and death can be confusing in that regard, and I found there are a lot more people who like this song than I expected.
Every time that I was down, you would always come around and get my feet back on the ground.
I at least get the appeal of it, which is more than I can say for select songs that actually made the list, especially my number 1 spot. And what wound up being at the number 1 spot? Let's find out. And the number 1 worst hit song of 1974 is... I'm not gonna lie, I genuinely have no idea if this song is really worse than You're Having My Baby.
Having my baby.
Judging by this list, it's reasonable to assume I at least hate it more than that, but considering I included Waterloo on this list, a song I actually do like more than several of the dishonorable mentions I just went over, I'm really trying to make this list as objective as possible. So I might need for this to be a journey that we all take together. In light of that, I present to you my selection for the number 1 worst hit song of 1974.
Bill walked me to my door last night, and he said before I go...
If I had to guess, most people unfamiliar with the 1974 year-end list are looking at that title and artist and thinking, who? What? And, huh? Well, I will answer those questions in order as best as I can. Who this guy is Jim Stafford, another country singer slash comedian, and also alleged sexual harasser of Nell Scovell, the creator of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Oh, well, as someone who hasn't seen a single episode of any incarnation of that show, screw that!
I can't say enough about the way I feel.
And no, I'm not just putting this song at number 1 for that alone. I'm judging a song here, not the artist. But speaking of, his 3 biggest hits all came out this year, with the other 2 being Spiders and Snakes.
I got silly and found a frog in the water by a hollow log, and I shook it at her, and I said, "This frog's for you."
Where the punchline is that little boys are absolute morons around little girls, which is accurate, and Wildwood Weed, which is about pot.
The Wildwood Flower is an old country classic that's gained a whole new popularity. The song isn't any more popular, but the flower's doing real good.
I personally don't find the song funny. I've never smoked pot or anything for that matter in my life. But if you have, I'll bet the song's a frickin' riot. So while I'm not a fan of those songs, I can see why others might like them. I got nothing for My Girl Bill, though.
William's hands were shaking as he took his glass of wine.
So, what is this song about? Well, when it starts, it sounds like it's about a secret love affair between the narrator and a girl named Mark. Or Bill, I honestly forget. This song hardly ever brings it up.
I can't say enough about the way I feel about my girl. My girl Bill.
But now I bet you're wondering, Bill? That's an odd name for a girl. It's not a girl. This song lies to you. Well, not lies to you, but definitely misleads you.
There's something about our love affair that I have a right to know.
I mean, the song does go into detail about the actual affair and relationship between these two people. But when you get to the final verse, you find out who the heck the narrator is actually talking to.
I know we both love her, and I guess we always will. But you're gonna have to find another, 'cause she's my girl, Bill.
Oh, haha, I get it. You see, there is no girl named Bill. He's talking to a guy named Bill. Because they both are in love with the same girl, but he's affirming that she is his girl to Bill. You see, she's my girl, comma, Bill. Ha 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 ha. And I thought I honestly love you had a terrible plot twist.
My girl Bill.
But yeah, that's the punchline. You being confused as hell that the girl he's talking to is named Bill. Which isn't even a joke, it's a grammatical error.
Let's just slip inside, and I'll fix us both a drink.
But it begs the question, why would anyone have found that funny in the first place? If you were to laugh at being fooled that you think he's talking to a girl when he's actually talking to a guy, what is that supposed to say about you? I mean, if I didn't know any better, you'd think he was... It's a joke about transphobes, isn't it?
Bill, let's not stand out here like this. What would the neighbors think?
I mean, transphobes and any other kind of phobes in regards to LGBT rights are terrible people, but based on the format of the song, I almost feel like this subject is so taboo that he's inadvertently accusing everyone listening of being one.
So let's just sit here on the couch and face this man to man.
I mean, the song's not directly about that specific group or even being addressed to that specific group, it's to the entire audience. And if I'm understanding the joke correctly, which I could be wrong, that's possible, but based on the read I'm getting, transphobia is common enough to where he has to make this joke.
You're gonna have to find another, 'cause she's my girl, Bill.
Which is bold, I'll give him that, but he is phenomenally missing the mark then if this is how he wants to go about it. That punchline comes way out of left field when the song sounds like any typical love triangle story. A story, by the way, that invites its own problems.
There's something about our love affair.
So, before I get into the rest of the lyrics, let's talk about the orchestration. Why does it sound so much like the Mr. Rogers theme? I mean, the other bad songs on this list with innocent production just had a lack of self-awareness, but this one, I'm not sure that's the issue. I think at least Jim knows what vibe the song is going for and is playing on that as a troll move, which I could respect if the joke was actually funny, but it's just one freaking joke and it's not even thought out properly.
My girl Bill.
But, composition aside, what's this song's story? Well, it starts with Bill and the narrator, let's just say it's Jim himself, walking at Jim's front door.
Bill walked me to my door last night, and he said before I go...
I can't really tell you why. I mean, it's later revealed they both just left her place where they were doing God knows what. But now is the aftermath of whatever interaction that was, and he's now inviting him inside for a drink.
And I could see we both felt the same. And when his eyes met mine, I said, who we love and why we love, it's hard to understand.
Okay, so my theory about this being about transphobes has now morphed into homophobes, and this verse is only strengthening the idea that that's what the song's actually about. I'm really praying I'm just overreaching here and I'm way off base, but how do you explain the lyric that came before it?
And I said, Bill, let's not stand out here like this. What would the neighbors think?
He's talking about bigots. Again, I appreciate the stance of taking them down a peg, but please clarify that that's who you're addressing this to and not everyone, because not everyone is one.
And I could see we both felt the same. And when his eyes met mine...
So they continue talking out this affair with each other with tee-hee, are they or aren't they gay jokes, which I consider freaking low.
Let's just sit here on the couch and face this man to man.
But now it's dawning on me, I'm taking this way too seriously. It's just a comedy song. Turn your brain off and enjoy it. Just because I don't get the joke, and just because it seems like it's commentating on something poorly, doesn't mean it can't be enjoyed one other way. As a standalone song where two men civilly discuss the feelings they each have for the same girl. That's totally fine, right?
You know, we just left her place, and we both know what she said. She said she doesn't want to see your face, and she wishes you were dead.
Huh?
She said she doesn't want to see your face, and she wishes you were dead.
So, we went from a debatable metaphor for bigotry to a song about two guys feuding and one of them threatening death on the other.
We both know what she said.
I mean, technically it's the woman in the story wishing death on Bill, allegedly, but listen to how he said that.
She said she doesn't want to see your face, and she wishes you were dead.
I don't even know how that's supposed to tie into the overarching theme, or be funny for that matter. And given his tone, I'm not convinced he's being truthful about who wants who dead in this scenario. I think he's indirectly threatening Bill to stay away from his girl or else he'll throw him off a bridge.
I know we both love her, and I guess we always will.
Of course, these fears could once again be baseless and complete stretches on my part, but is it really wrong of me to question how much I should trust a song called My Girl Bill when Bill is a guy?
My Girl Bill.
And that is why I consider this song worse than You're Having My Baby. Say what you will about how detestable that subject is, at least I know what it is. Here, the subject is completely unclear to me, and based on what I've gathered, the subjects it might be tackling put me on edge. Whether it be an unfunny comedy song that saves the actual joke until the end with a terrible payoff, a genuine song about a love triangle that takes a dark turn at the end, which might be the least likely possibility, but he brought it up, or I dig at LGBT foes without making it clear that's who this song is for because, again, you left that part out until the end.
She's my girl, Bill.
Every angle with which I looked at this song felt more and more unpleasant to me, whether intentional or not. Maybe I'm just a complete stick in the mud who isn't getting the joke and I'm totally overreacting, but on an emotional level, this song never gave me a straightforward answer of what it was going for, which is just clumsy on its own. I thought the streak was terrible, but at least it had a hook and I knew what it was. But My Girl Bill doesn't work on any level. It was the least defendable song I could find. It was painfully unfunny, hopelessly problematic, and so barebones it could pass itself off as a skeleton. And that is why I declare My Girl Bill by Jim Stafford to be the #1 worst hit song of 1974.
I'm talking about my little girl, My Girl Bill.
And that was my top 10 worst hit songs of 1974. Finally, I am done. I can be rid of this awful year of music once and for all. Alright, I do have a best of list to take care of too. Crud. Alright, fine. For the sake of completion, I'll do one. You gotta give me at least 2 weeks for even the first part to come out, but I'll do it. For you guys. I'm certainly not doing it for myself anymore because what could 1974 have left to even offer me after all the garbage I had to sit through for the worst of list? I'm not expecting much for the best of list. But humor me, 1974. What do you have left in the tank that you think even fractionally absolves you of the trash that I had to listen to here? I was not expecting that.
Everybody was